YouTube. I'm back with another video. Had a little absence, sorry about that. Been real busy, haven't had time to RC or anything like that. But I just wanted to do an update. I remember I did that video a while back about this motor. This is the first one I bought. I bought like 3 of them, and this was the first one that I ran. And I told you it had about 6 to 8 gallons on it. The front bearing was leaking, but I disassembled the engine and I showed you kind of what the engine looked like after I was using the O'Donnell original in the white jug. Good fuel, loved it. It always worked good for me. But then I switched over to this O'Donnell speed blend, and I like it. This stuff makes good power and it seems to work well. The only thing that I've been noticing is that it makes my front bearing leak on my Reds motor for some reason. And I've noticed it because I've never had bearings leaks like this. But I run my motors rich, and I think that O'Donnell speed blend has a thinner oil. I mean, I know it does because the little oil that you get out of the exhaust, you can feel it. It's a thinner oil. But irregardless, I put that motor back together with 2 new bearings. I bought the rear bearing off a Boca bearing, and it's a good one. It's just steel. And then I put an Avid ceramic in the front because I bought that 3 or 4 of them that one day at the hobby shop. So the engine was kind of lazy when I put it together again. I just thought, man, you know what's going on, but it's like 80 degrees and really humid, so I figured that might have something to do with it. But I'm like, nah, because I ran that Reds motor in this buggy before I reassembled this motor and put it back together, and it was running just fine, nice and crispy. But I was like, something's not right. So the first thing I did after I ran this buggy with the motor that I put back together, that's been sitting in my bag for about a year, just disassembled and stored properly, was I looked at the shim stack. And the shim stack was 87 thousandths, I think. Or, excuse me, 0.87 millimeters. So what I did was I found the thinnest one and took that out, and I took one standard one and took that out. The standard ones are 20.20, and the thinner ones are 0. The thin one was 0.15 and the thick one was 0.20. Now I gotta redo this. Hold on. 0. Put my shim stack back in. So this one's 0.3. It was 3.5. I gotta re-zero this out, but it was. I took out 0.35 millimeters worth of stacks, or worth of shims out of the stack. So now I'm left with 0.5. And normally I run my engines between 0.4 millimeters and 0.6 millimeters, depending on the weather. That's the ballpark that I run pretty much every engine I have in, because I can kind of tune for the weather, but sometimes the weather's so drastic the car just won't perform without taking that out. It will lose its performance. So anyway, I took those 0.35 millimeters out. I was left with 0.5 millimeters, and man, this thing woke up big time. So I guess that's a little lesson, guys, on you know, before you jump to conclusions about your fuel or your parts or your carburetor or whatever, you know, if you're having issues, I say this all the time and I want to say it again, these little engines are so simple. They run on a really good quality fuel and oil, and you know, it's got nitromethane in there to compensate for the power that it would otherwise not make for being such a small engine. And the design is so simple, and they've designed them so good that these things run perfect, man. When I took these 2 shims out of there, brought the head down closer, I'm running an OSP3 plug with the O'Donnell speed blend and a 2058 pipe from Team Orion. Dude, this thing is crispy and it rips. So, you know, if you guys are kind of wondering, you know, I got a cheap motor and it doesn't make that much power, well, you know, try to make it work for you, because one thing I've learned is that these engines all have the same displacement. And nitro is like the great equalizer. You know what I mean? You can only make so much power with so much air and fuel that enters the cylinder. So, like you hear other people say, "Oh, I got a $20 engine that runs with the $500 engines." Well, that's probably true, because you're all working with the same amount of fuel, which makes all your power. So some of them just have better power bands, and some of them have better drivability characteristics, which is what you really want and what you're paying for. But yeah, I put this motor together. It's been sitting in my bag for about a year. I cleaned it up, a little bit of surface, because you'll get a little bit of surface corrosion and stuff. Not terrible, but just a film of something. Clean it all down to good, clean bare metal with a rag and some cleaner. Then re-oil everything, and everything went right back together. 2 brand new bearings. I took 2 shims out of the head stack that measured 0.34 out of the 0.87 that was in there. It left me with 0.50, and this thing's running good. Oh man, I was like surprised, because I was like, oh man, maybe we're having some issues with something, because it was real lazy, and had the bottom end was minimal, and the RPMs just weren't hitting the high notes that I was used to with this other engine that I got. That's the same thing, but I forgot about the head stack. But anyway, here we are, just a little update video, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying your fall season. This is nitro weather, guys. When it gets to be about 65, 70, sunny, good air, these things rip, and they sound awesome. So good luck. If you guys have any questions or comments, those of you that are watching, just ask one in the comments down below, and I'll get to it and answer it when I can. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Later.